Like the conspiracy channels out there, I'm going to try to put some solid information out there, but maybe this might lead to something bad beyond belief too. It could be the warning shots of what's coming up. It looks like the United States of America's IRS is going after basically Putin and the Russians and the Russian oligarchs one way or the other. What's going on is actually this law. I knew about this law when it passed a couple years ago. Well, more than a couple years ago, 2010. It's the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. In other words, if you got any money in any foreign bank anywhere, you got to report it, or else there's like these big, huge penalties. The penalties are ridiculous. So, like in other words, if you don't report it and they find out about it, you're screwed, right? So anyway, it looks like what's going on. This has actually been implemented far before the Ukrainian crisis, but it looks like they're gonna, push the law even more. What goes on is that any bank, anybody says, in other words, any Russian banks that buy U.S. securities after July 2014, if they buy any U.S. securities, will forfeit the 30% of the interest and dividend payments. In other words, they're automatically gonna withhold it, and you'll have to get it back later. Any banks that are like dealing in that have non-disclosure with the U.S. government that are in other countries and stuff like that, they are actually going to have to deal with this law right now. In other words, and if it turns out they're in non-compliance or somebody's in non-compliance with doing a withholding tax of 30%, the bank is going to have to pay for it. So in other words, say a bank there's some country like, say, Switzerland is like, we're not going to comply with giving the U.S. information about, secrecy laws and the secrecy, we're going to keep our clients' information all secret. Well, it turns out it's going to be that, in that case, if you're a bank and you have a subsidiary with that, what's going to happen is that you're going to have to, you're still going to have to make a payment of 30% to the IRS. This is going to cause a hell of a lot of problems. And now another thing too, in the Russian banks, they already have bank secrecy laws. See, the whole Russian system, despite what these people that are Putin worshippers want to think about, it's I know we got like the big oligarch gang on the top of the United States and in the West and the UK and in Europe and everywhere else, but Russia has it, and it's even far more severe. But the Russian oligarchs constantly deal with the West. As a matter of fact, they probably deal more with the West than they do. They don't trust their own banking system. They don't. That's a fact. Actually, I'll even tell you this about the Chinese. The Chinese that are getting a lot of money right now, that are the new multimillionaires. One of the favorite places they want to go to. They want to get out of China. They want to go to the United States. I mean, despite what's going on here in the wrong direction, it's still so much better here than a lot of other places that it doesn't compare. Now, I'm not just playing like wave a flag here. It's a fact. It's a fact. There's people like from the Ukraine, Russia, or whatever. They're coming over this way. I mean, like even like I put out, like I think I showed a link one time to a couple of diplomats that were Russian. And they were joking about the Russians taking over. They were joking. This is a phone conversation. They were joking about the Russians taking over not just Alaska, but also California and Miami and everything else. But they also stated that there's loads of Russians in New York and Miami and California and everything. The reason is because it's a better life here. It's, I'm not just playing like games here with this stuff. Now, I'm going to say where this might go to. This is actually going to hurt the oligarchs in Russia big time. This will actually hurt Putin. This will be something like sanctions are a big joke, but what's going on with this? If they can't hide money, they can't transfer money into all these different companies, all these different offshore accounts without possibly getting major hits. And the banks are going to comply with this because eventually it's going to be, even if you have a subsidiary that is one of a bank that is has a subsidiary in another country that has the secrecy laws, eventually it's going to be total compliance across the board. And If they don't collect the money, the bank's going to be held liable for it. That bank is actually going to be held liable for it. So go figure that. And there's a lot of Russian companies that actually are registered in the United States and in Europe and everywhere else. A lot. When everybody talks about there's a lot of Russians in Florida and in New York City and stuff, well, they're doing business over here, right? And, there's a lot of reasons I talked about before about having, corporations set up in different countries and what the advantages are of it. Well, in this case, you're talking about the taxation on interest income and things like that, or any kind of ordinary income. It's, in other words, in dividends. If you try to hide that money and the IRS finds out about it, there's huge penalties, and you're going to make the bank pay for it itself. So this is actually a law that's been in effect since 2010. I remember when this came out, and it's being implemented now. And actually, the Russians, to get compliance with this, with even where they can exchange information with the IRS, their deadline is coming up in just a few weeks or something like that, I think it is. So they don't even have the time to do it. So it's like, financially, they're going to get screwed. They're going to, Russian economy's not doing that great. I'm not saying knocking the Russian people or anything like that. It's the oligarchs. It's more extreme over there than it is over here. And, the problem is, I think alternative media in the United States is extremely biased in favor of the Russian mafia and Vladimir Putin, the voice of the Russian mafia. That's the way I look at it. The alternative media in this country is extremely biased to them. I'm not biased to either one of these things. I think, tell you the truth, I don't even know what the reason is even paying taxes for so much. It's like crazy. I mean, it's like, the amount of taxes that are being taken out of people's pay and tax laws are so complicated that it's really hurts the middle class more than anything. It's an obvious fact. Anybody can see that. I mean, even though they show the progressive income tax going up and up and up, when you actually get into the intricacies of the tax laws, the wealthy pay a hell of a lot less tax as a percentage of their income than the middle class. The middle class pays the most. The actual tax laws are, if they just had a flat sales tax and they got rid of the IRS, they got rid of all these bean counting calculators all over the place, it would save a lot of garbage, basically wasted effort, and the world would be a better place to live. But what I could see come up with this is Putin's the type of guy, he's never going to back down. I can tell you that right now, man. He's tough. He's a tough cookie, man. I know I kind of knocked him a little bit when he's saying he was short. He has the Napoleon ego. He's a tough guy, man. He's not going to back down. He's short, but he's a ball of fire. I know that. I'll recognize that. He's not going to give up on this. And, when he had, like, the Kremlin state-sponsored media talk about, well, we could still turn the United States into radioactive dust. That might be the outcome of this crap after so many years from now. Who knows? It might be. They might fight tooth and nail if they get hurt too bad. So, I mean, this is a raw deal all the way around. But I have to say something on the end of this damn video because I'm getting tired of these religious people out there talking, and I get sick of this garbage because I'm not against religion, but there's a lot of people out there with religion for profit, and it's like, you see these pastors, I'm not going to name all the names, but there's several pastors out there, and there's several freaking drama freaks out there. The sky's falling every freaking 2 seconds, and I actually subscribe to some of them, and I just see what the hell I don't actually watch the videos, I just see what the hell kind of crap they're trying to scare people with now and next. But the thing is, it's sickening to see that, the real information is actually not getting out to the people, and you got all this drama stuff going out to people, and the major media is like skewing the information. The major media is throwing their angle, and you got the alternative media throwing their angle out too. It's a bunch of garbage. And to tell you the truth, I'm getting sick of these guys that are hiding behind the religion and saying they're doing it all for religion, and there's a big money racket going on with religion, left and right. And, you know, a lot of these people in religion, they're about as bad as the people that are professionals. You know, they won't lift up a hammer or, you know, pick up a piece of lumber or something like that, or, you know, pick up some sandpaper and do something. They're too damn lazy, man. They sit on their ass all the time. They don't want to, they just want to preach. You know what I mean? It really drives me, it really fucking pisses me off, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of times the blue-collar worker, you know, like Jesus was a carpenter, right? You know, you know, for Jewish, don't be insulted now when I'm saying this, or, you know, I know you're not going to be, but, you know, what I'm getting at, Jesus was a carpenter. He wasn't some guy out there saying, preaching something and give me all kinds of money and I live up here in a castle, you know? He's not doing that. And I'm not just talking about the biggest Roman Catholic Church in the Vatican. I'm talking about all of them. You know, actually the blue-collar worker is far more into what Jesus was about than all these preachers are put together, in my opinion. You know, you see this all the time. And actually, and I tell you the truth, you know, there's one channel out there, or a couple of channels I like. Actually, it's by the same person. I watch a lot of, you know, what I actually watch on YouTube a lot? I watch Jay Leno's stuff. I like that guy, man. You know, he's one of the few people from Hollywood that is not fake at all. And I like watching Southwest Custom Rod and Custom from Pete and the DIY Auto School. And, you know, these are real people. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? One has more money than the other guy. But the thing is, they're both real people. They're both real people. And, you know, when I look at stuff like that, you know, you look at somebody like with the Southwest Rod and Custom, that guy, he's freaking more honest than any preacher out there. I can guarantee you. Preacher wouldn't freaking work his ass off and do stuff all day in a body shop. They wouldn't. They want to be in an air-conditioned office and preach Jesus and talk about Jesus from the pulpit and give me freaking contributions. You know what I mean? So I got a real beef with some of these preachers, man. So anyway, I just want to put this out here because it looks like, you know, all the crap they tell you about with the alternative media, how Russia's going to collapse the dollar and all this kind of garbage. That ain't true. That is not what you think is going to happen. Maybe it's going to happen maybe someday or whatever. But I can tell you right now, it looks like the Russian economy and the Russians on the top are going to get hurt a hell of a lot more. Because actually most of the world is not backing Putin on his deal with Ukraine. Most of the world. And even if you know, there's a lot of shills out there where they get on the channels and stuff like that and say, oh, Putin's a saint. And once I see that kind of garbage, I say, no way in hell. Because actually with this deal with the Ukraine, the way I look at it is you should have neither the West and the European Union mess with the Ukraine, nor Russia. Ukraine ought to be independent. Ukraine ought to be independent. Now, I'm not a fan of the IRS, I want to put it this way, but it looks like the IRS has got Russia and Putin by the cojones, man. And they're going to use this, you know, the FATCA, you know what it is, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, to the max, and it's going to make it so, you know, it's going to make it difficult. I'll guarantee you, without even saying specifics or making any claims, I guarantee you these oligarchs and all these Russian people over here in the United States, they're doing all kinds of shit to avoid taxes left and right. And with this law, they're not going to be able to. So that's what Putin did for him, you know, by invading the Crimea. It's like a total backfire, man. It's a total backfire. But you know what this may lead to? Eventually, at some point in time, because Putin, I tell you, honestly, I know Putin's a tough guy. I mean, I know he's a shorter guy. He seems like he's got this ego problem and shit. He's a tough guy. He's not gonna back down, man. He's gonna be like, he's gonna pull something out. He's gonna pull something out. I know it, man. I know that. I mean, he's stupid. You know, that's why a lot of Western weasels that are fed up with the freaking system over here, they go run to that guy like he's the good guy. I know he's not the good guy, but, you know, I'm not running to him like he's the good guy. No way in hell. But I realize there's a bunch of garbage going on over here, too. But, you know, you just got to go right back to square one, man. The blue-collar worker is going to save the day in the United States, man. That's what it is. And you know what the problem is? Most people don't want to do that because, you know why? Because it's work. It's work. But it looks like, you know, if I had to take a guess about where this would actually help the metals with this, the money and stuff like that, I think it would help the metals, because if you had a load of profits on something like that, why put the money in the bank? Why not just buy metals? All right? Why not just buy metals? You know what I mean? It make a lot of sense to me. They're pretty liquid when you got to spend them anyway, right? So this may, just as a final note here, this may actually help the metals, because these Russians got a lot of money. I mean, you're talking billions, man. And if they don't like, using banks anymore, maybe they'll buy gold, silver, palladium, and platinum. And that'll help us, you know what I mean? So in a way, I don't know, comes around, you know what I mean? Karma comes around.